Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I am going to be taking a look at an album that came out in 1994 on JVC Records, which marks 28 years this year it was released. And it's from a musician who's been around for a very long time. He's highly respected, incredibly popular, and has a very distinct sound on the saxophone. When you hear him, you know straight away who it is because it's so recognizable and so legendary in the world of jazz fusion and R&B. And he has played with some of the great artists in all genres, from the Doobie Brothers to who he is currently playing with to this day, to Ritenour, to Tower of Power, you name it. He's played with them all, and he was a part of the Star Trek IV The Voyage Home soundtrack. And he is best known for his long association as a member of the classic lineup of the Yellowjackets with Russell Ferrante, Jimmy Haslip, and William Kennedy. And he made some of their greatest music from 1985 to 1989 before leaving in 1990. And the gentleman I am talking about needs no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only saxophonist Marc Russo, and this is his only album so far that he has released under his name as a band leader, The Window. So, as I mentioned already, Marc Russo was a member of the Yellowjackets from 1985 to 1989 before leaving in 1990, and he done a lot of session work, but so far The Window is his only solo album that he released under his name. And as you'd expect from Marc Russo, it's just absolutely fantastic. It just sounds like a Lost Yellowjackets album. You know, it's very much in the style of Shades, Four Corners, Politics, The Spin, all of those styles that he contributed to those classic albums. Even Samurai Samba, you know, it's all on there, and it's just an amazing album. And as I said, it's the only one he's released so far under his name. So let's have a look. There he is. There's some credits and sleeve notes. So, musicians that are featured on this album is, of course, Marc Russo on saxophones with a little bit of keyboards, William Kennedy on drums from the classic lineup of the Yellowjackets, Benny Reitveld on bass, Kevin Richard on percussion. We've also got John Burr on piano, and we've also got Steve George on piano as well, and we've got Steph Burns on guitar, and also Ray Obido on guitar as well. So it's pretty much Marc Russo and William Kennedy on most of this album, with some guest appearances from the musicians that I just mentioned. And all of the compositions are written and composed by Marc Russo, with one co-composition written by Marc Russo and Steve George. And it's just absolutely a wonderful album. So good. And this easily could have fit in very nicely with the Yellowjackets catalogue, especially around that time as well. You know, it just pretty much sounds like a continuation of that style. It's just a very lovely album. So we got A Southern Tale, Shape, Introduction to The Window, the title track for The Window, Crooked Numbers, Elizabeth, Whatever You Want, The Weekend, School, In the Rain, and my all-time favourite track on this album, The Notes Next to the Notes, which just sounds like a Yellowjackets track. You know, it goes like this: do 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 do. It's absolutely a fantastic track, and that's my all-time favourite track on this album. But the other tracks on this album are just as good. The Weekend is great. Whatever You Want is another great track. The Window, great track. School is another great track. A Southern Tale. This whole album is just fantastic. And when you listen to The Window, you can clearly hear how big of a role Marc Russo played in the Yellowjackets music in the time he was in the band. It, as I said, it just sounds like a Yellowjackets album, you know. And Marc Russo's sax playing was such a big part of the music. And Marc Russo solos, I often compared it to like a machine gun. It's just relenting, you know. That's Marc Russo's sax playing. It's just so ferocious, so big, but it's also got that R&B flavor in there as well. It's just unbelievable. And also, he's not just a burner on the sax. You know, he can play straight ahead jazz as well, as we've heard. You know, he's got some jazz chops as well. He's more of an R&B player, but Marc Russo, he can do it all. You know, he's, I wouldn't say he's Bob Mintzer, who replaced him. You know, Bob Mintzer and Marc Russo are two completely different players, but Marc Russo, he's no slouch. He's a monster sax player, and as I said, so far, this is the only album that Marc Russo has released under his name as a band leader, and he doesn't miss a beat. He just picks up where he left off from when he was with the Jackets, and what more can you say, really? Marc Russo, for me, probably the best Yellowjackets sax player they ever had. Bob Mintzer probably might be the better all-round sax player, but for me, for the Yellowjackets music, Marc Russo was just perfect. And as I mentioned at the beginning, when you think of some of the greatest music that the Yellowjackets have made in their long history as a band, Marc Russo's got to be up there in conversation, because as far as I'm concerned, Robin Ford might have formed the band all those years ago, but for me, Marc Russo put the Yellowjackets on the map, because how can you not deny his contributions? And if you're a fan of that period, you're a fan of that style that the Yellowjackets were known for, this is the one for you. Highly recommend it. It's a fantastic album. So there you have it, Marc Russo, The Window. And I'd like to think one day, when the Yellowjackets decide to call it quits, I'd like to see Marc Russo go back one last time. Maybe not necessarily for a new album, just maybe go back and play some of that classic material one last time before they call it a day. Or maybe even do like a reformation tour with Jimmy Haslip as well. I think that would be really fun, because Marc Russo, as I said, he was a huge part of that period of the 80s. You know, he's just got such a distinct sound on the saxophone. When you hear him, you know it's him. There's nobody else out there that sounds like Marc Russo. He's the man. So there you have it. Marc Russo, The Window, his debut album on JVC Records, which is coming up to nearly 30 years it came out. Unbelievable. Still remember when this came out. It's just fantastic. And I was a little bit sad when Marc Russo left the band. It was such a shock. You know, the Yellowjackets were really at the top of their game and really started to hit their stride. And he just went. So it was a little bit sad, but this is a nice little gem to add to the Yellowjackets catalogue, I would say. So there you have it. Marc Russo, The Window. And who knows, maybe Marc Russo might one day release another solo album. You just never know. So there you have it. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite track on Marc Russo, The Window? Is it A Southern Tale, Shake, Introduction to The Window, Crooked Numbers, Elizabeth, Whatever You Want, The Weekend, School, In the Rain, or The Notes, Next to the Notes? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite tracks. You know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. So until next time, take care everybody and stay safe, and once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.